It was a cold evening in New York City. Soft flakes of snow were falling from the sky, blanketing the busy streets of Manhattan in quiet white. Between the tall buildings, a small coffee shop named Blue Petals Cafe glowed warmly against the frost. Inside, near the window, sat a young woman, Sophia Raymond, a quiet soul with hazel eyes and a voice as soft as winter sunlight. In front of her, a cup of coffee sat steaming gently, but her smile, once full of life, seemed to have disappeared somewhere along the way. Just then, the bell above the door chimed. A man stepped in, Ethan Miller, a photographer, his camera hanging from his neck and a shy smile playing on his lips. He brushed the snow from his coat, glanced around, and his gaze stopped right at Sophia. That moment felt like a scene frozen in time. "Excuse me," he said softly, "is this seat taken?" Sophia looked up, startled. "No, you can sit." He sat down, and from that moment, words began to flow, softly, effortlessly, like an old song remembered after years of silence. They talked about the city's lights, their dreams, their loneliness. Ethan's laughter brought a faint glow back to Sophia's face. The next day, they met again, and then again, until their meetings became part of their days, as natural as breathing. Ethan showed Sophia his world, photographs of Central Park's birds, the sunset over the Brooklyn Bridge, the sea whispering at Coney Island. And Sophia shared her diary, filled with fragile words and quiet hope. She had written, "Some people change your whole life just by proving that love truly exists." They became inseparable. A few months later, on a snowy afternoon in Central Park, Ethan knelt down with a trembling smile and asked, "Will you walk with me forever?" Sophia's eyes filled with tears. She smiled and whispered, "Yes, Ethan, forever." Their wedding was simple yet magical. A small church, soft music, white lila, and love shimmering in every glance. Sophia, radiant in her gown, looked like a dream that had finally found its morning. Ethan's eyes said what words could not, "You are my forever." Their married life bloomed in a small apartment overlooking the Hudson. The walls echoed with laughter, the air filled with warmth, and in the corner by the window sat the same cup of tea, the quiet witness to their evenings together. Ethan immersed himself in photography, Sophia in her books, but between them existed a silent language, love unspoken, yet deeply felt. One night, as they sat on a rooftop watching the stars, Ethan asked, "Do you believe in souls, Sophia?" She smiled and looked at the sky. "Yes. Souls never die. They just find new bodies so that the story doesn't end unfinished." Ethan held her hand and whispered, "Then promise me, if I ever lose you, you'll find me again." Sophia's eyes glistened. "Only if you promise to wait for me." Beyond the breath, that moment, those words stayed suspended between them forever. The night after that rooftop conversation, the world seemed beautifully still. The stars hung like diamonds over New York's skyline, and the soft hum of the city faded into the rhythm of their breaths. But love, as tender as it was, carried within it the shadow of fate, quiet, unseen, inevitable. Months passed. Their laughter still echoed through the apartment, but something subtle began to change, not in words, but in silences. Sophia had started waking up late, her energy fading. She brushed it off as exhaustion, yet Ethan noticed the tremor in her hands, the dullness behind her smile. One evening, as the golden light of sunset spilled through the blinds, Sophia fainted while pouring tea. The cup shattered, tea spreading across the wooden floor like spilled memories. Ethan rushed to her, his heart pounding in his chest. "Sophia, look at me, please." When she opened her eyes again, she was in a hospital room, pale walls, the smell of antiseptic, and the quiet beeping of machines counting her breaths. The doctor's words came like a storm. "I'm sorry, Mr. Miller. It's stage 4. The cancer has already spread." For a moment, Ethan couldn't hear anything. The world around him blurred. The doctor's voice became a distant echo. He walked into the hallway, pressed his back against the cold wall, and slid down, tears spilling silently, breath breaking into sobs he couldn't control. Inside the room, Sophia stared at the ceiling, blank, expressionless. Her mind replayed all the promises Ethan had made. "I'll never let tears fall from your eyes, even if I have to pay with my life." And now, life was demanding its price. Ethan spent every moment by her side. He read her favorite books, played her favorite songs, captured her smiles and photographs, desperate to hold on to every second. But as weeks turned into months, her voice grew weaker, her laughter rarer. One night, the rain lashed against the hospital window. Sophia turned her face toward Ethan and said softly, "Do you remember the promise you made under the stars?" Ethan held her hand tightly, every word of it. "Then remember this too. When I'm gone, I'll still be near. You'll feel me in the silence, in the wind, in the shadows." Ethan's tears fell onto her hand. "Don't say that, Sophia. You're not going anywhere." "You can't." She smiled faintly. "Even shadows fade when the light disappears." Days later, her condition worsened. Ethan refused to leave her room, his camera untouched, his life paused. Then came the morning that stole everything. The sunlight touched Sophia's face through the curtain as her breath faltered. Ethan whispered, "Sophia, I'm here. Please open your eyes." She smiled weakly, her lips trembling as she whispered her last words. He was only a shadow, and shadows never stay when the darkness comes. And then, silence. The monitor gave one long, unbroken sound, the sound of an ending. Ethan froze. His world shattered. The cup of tea on the bedside table still had warmth, as if mocking the coldness that had taken over her body. For hours, he sat beside her, holding her lifeless hand, unable to believe she was gone. Outside, the snow began to fall again, softly, endlessly, as if the sky itself was crying with him. Days turned into months, but Ethan was no longer the man he once was. He walked through the same streets, visited the same cafe, sat by the same window where they had met, but now there was only emptiness. He often spoke to her picture, his voice trembling. "You said souls don't die, Sophia. Then where are you?" Sometimes late at night, he felt her, a whisper in the wind, a flicker in the candle flame, the soft scent of her perfume passing by. And he would close his eyes, whispering, "Are you there, my love? Are you my shadow now?" But no answer came. Only the hum of loneliness filled the room, a haunting melody of love lost yet still alive. The days after Sophia's death passed like shadows, silent, colorless, endless. Ethan's apartment in Seattle had turned into a museum of memories. Every corner held a fragment of her, a scarf draped on the chair, a book with her handwriting on the last page, a cup of tea half stained with her lipstick. He stopped drawing the curtains. He stopped answering calls. Sometimes he sat on the floor beside her favorite armchair, talking to the emptiness. His friends tried to pull him out, but he had already chosen his cage, made of love, loss, and the echoes of a voice that no longer existed. One night, while sorting through Sophia's things, he found a letter neatly folded, tucked inside the pages of her journal. The handwriting trembled with life, as if her hand had only just left the paper, greater than, "If you're reading this, Ethan, it means I'm already gone. Don't search for me in the earth or the sky. I'll be around you, in the warmth of sunlight that touches your face, in the wind that passes through your hair. You'll know it's me when your heart suddenly feels light again." Tears blurred his vision. The paper shook in his trembling hands. That night, he dreamt of her, standing in the same white dress she wore on their wedding day. Her face was soft, glowing like moonlight. "Sophia?" he whispered in disbelief. She smiled. "You never believed in forever, Ethan. But I told you love never ends. It just changes its shape." He tried to touch her, but his fingers met only air. She whispered, "Don't cry for me." "Live, Ethan. That's how you'll find me again." And then she faded, just like mist under the morning sun. He woke up gasping. The room was dark. The air was cold. Yet he could still smell her perfume, jasmine and rain. Days later, strange things began to happen. The old music box Sophia loved, the one that hadn't worked in years, began playing by itself, softly at midnight. Her photograph on the wall would sometimes tilt, as if an invisible hand had brushed against it. Once, while Ethan sat writing, a gust of wind blew through the room, though the windows were closed, scattering her letters across the floor. And he heard it, faint but unmistakable, her voice whispering his name. He stood frozen, heart racing. "Is it you, Sophia?" The silence that followed felt alive, filled with warmth, not fear. He dropped to his knees and whispered, "If this is madness, then let me stay mad forever." From that night onward, Ethan began to talk to her shadow. He'd sit on the balcony, facing the city lights, and speak softly into the wind, telling her about his day, his pain, his regrets. He started painting again, his brush guided by memories. Every canvas seemed to hold a glimpse of her, a face half lit, half hidden, always fading at the edges. One evening, as the sun set over Lake Union, he painted her reflection, standing by the water, smiling. And when he stepped back, he saw something that made his heart skip. In the wet paint, a faint mark, as if a tear had fallen from nowhere, cutting down the corner of her painted eye. He whispered, "Are you crying, Sophia, or am I?" That night, he returned to their favorite cafe, the same one where they'd first met. The waitress looked at him softly. "You always come alone, sir. You waiting for someone?" Ethan smiled faintly. "She's already here. You just can't see her." The waitress looked confused, but said nothing. He sat there for hours, staring at the empty chair opposite him, yet he could swear, in that soft golden light, he saw a flicker of her smile. Back home, Ethan finally gathered the courage to open Sophia's final painting, one she had hidden away before her illness worsened. When he unwrapped it, his breath caught. It was a painting of the two of them, walking hand in hand beneath a glowing full moon. And in the corner she had written, "When the moonlight touches you, I'll be walking beside you." Ethan broke down completely. His tears fell on the canvas, glistening like tiny stars. He whispered into the silence, "You're still here. I feel you." That night, as he lay on the couch, half awake, half dreaming, he felt something, a gentle brush across his hair, like a hand he knew too well. He opened his eyes. No one there. But the curtains moved softly, though the window was shut. And in that tender stillness, he heard her voice again. "You're not alone, Ethan. Not now, not ever." He closed his eyes, smiling through tears. Outside, the moonlight spilled through the window, and for a moment, two shadows appeared on the floor. One human, one unseen, walking side by side. The years drifted by, slow as the tides on the Seattle shore. Winter gave way to spring, spring to summer, but for Ethan, time had stopped the night Sophia took her last breath. He had learned to live with her absence, or rather, with her presence in absence. Her voice had become the echo of silence in his home. Her laughter, the whisper of wind against his window panes. Some nights he still dreamed of her, standing by the water, her hair dancing in the light of 1,000 unseen stars. Ethan grew older, but never colder. He didn't remarry. He didn't move cities. People said he was wasting his life living in memories, but they never understood. For Ethan, memory was life. One evening, he was sitting by Lake Union, the same place where they had once shared coffee and promises. The sky burned orange and gold. He held Sophia's old scarf in his hand, still faintly scented with her perfume, though years had passed. He whispered, "You were right, Sophia. Shadows never really leave. They just move where the light can't reach." A soft breeze passed, curling around his face as if answering him. He smiled faintly. "So you still listen?" As twilight deepened, he began to hear it again, the faint melody of the old music box, coming from his pocket. It had been silent for years. He pulled it out, opened it, and the tune it played was their wedding song. He looked around. No one was there. Only the moon rising above the lake, spilling silver light across the water. He stood up slowly, heart trembling. In the reflection of the lake, he saw her, Sophia, standing behind him, her white dress flowing in the ripples. Her eyes glowed with warmth, her smile soft as dusk. He turned around, breath caught. She wasn't there. But the air shimmered. He closed his eyes. "If this is a dream, don't wake me." And suddenly he felt it, her hand on his shoulder, her voice in his ear, calm and gentle, greater than, "You've waited long enough, Ethan. I told you, love never ends. It just changes its home." He turned, tears streaming, whispering, "Sophia, I can't let go. I don't know how." She smiled, her form flickering like light through rain. "You already have, my love. You just don't see it yet. You carried me in every sunrise you faced alone, in every tear you didn't wipe away."